So, fam, it's that time of season. It's the last election happened, so now we have a clear path to the next election in a couple years. And who's going to step up for the progressives? Who's going to step up for the left? The better of two evils, fam. Who's going to take the ball? Well, better than Marianne Williamson, fam.
Right. So first of all, okay, I want to preface this by we talk about foreign policy, and now the very last section, guys, really tune into this because I am just so over these people. I am so done with these people. I am beside myself with these people. We are on the brink of nuclear war. We're on the brink of like World War III. And what is the progressives doing? They're pushing Marianne Williamson for president. They're also saying how great Bernie was. Fam, can you get? Oh, I think I don't have the video tweet there, but I have the picture of Bernie and what he said about the conflict. Bernie has the same foreign policy as Biden.
Oh, I got it. I'll get that up. I got that up on
okay.
my. You're talking about the one that I'm not really involved with that kind of stuff, but I mean, just like I have that.
What a fucking shame right now. How where are we right now, right? And listen, we don't cover this shit anymore because we think it's a waste of time. But let me tell you, it's worth covering this now to really just dunk on these people and really show these people haven't budged an inch since 2015. Okay,
what are you talking about? He's budged a lot. Look at that hair, fam. How can you say he hasn't budged? Look
First
at it.
Of all, I can't take him seriously with that hair, but
he looks like a more distinguished Eminem.
Don't insult Eminem like that, okay? I've listened to Eminem since I was like 11. Don't insult Eminem. Okay?
You're right.
Come on, Marshall Mathers. Come on,
I love Marshall Mathers. Because I'm just Marshall Mathers. I'm a hell of a guy. I don't want to tell you why. Should we play this video, or do you want to read the tweet?
No. Okay. Let's read his tweet. Let's read his tweet, and then we'll read my tweet after we play the video. So let's go ahead and read his tweet really quick. Okay. Can you beat Joe Biden? This is a question he asked Marianne Williamson. Okay. And this is, of course, they plug in their exclusive interview on Crystal and Kyle or whatever. So let's go ahead and watch the video. And then we're going to watch a few other videos where Marianne says a couple of other things, by the way. So, yes.
Oh, I hope you put the one I want in there because it's just awful.
Give me an answer, one word. Got 3 quick questions. Number 1, can you beat Joe Biden?
Yes.
Number 2, can Joe Biden beat Donald Trump again or Ron DeSantis?
No.
Number 3, can you beat Trump or DeSantis?
Absolutely. Let me in there.
Give me an answer, one word. Got 3 quick questions. Number 1, can you beat Joe Biden?
Yes.
Let's post fantasies, right? Fantasies about Marianne Williamson beating Joe Biden or beating Donald Trump and DeSantis. First of all, she can't. No. Okay. Even if we had a fair election system, she couldn't. And it's for a plethora of reasons. It's because her foreign policy and a lot of her policies are vastly similar to Joe Biden's, guys. Essentially the same. Okay. So this is what I said. I said, the leftist independent media contingent doing access journalism. Because, fam, I want to talk about access journalism because this is exactly what this is, okay? It's not journalism, and it's definitely not independent. This is just PR for them to make money and to get us focused on this political theater, okay? And these pipe dreams, fam, because we know that we don't have fair elections. So instead of actually focusing on either having fair elections or understanding that we don't have fair elections, that we need to go outside the electoral system, which is where I'm at. Misty and I talk about this all the time. They're literally distracting people with pipe dreams. And so by now, of course, you should know that this is to enrich themselves, right? This is to actually just disempower any sort of real opposition movement. This is the same thing as the squad, right? These people are in the same contingent, the same boat as the squad, as all these people. They're just there to distract any sort of real oppositional movement. They want to be the new establishment just to call themselves progressive. They don't do anything. They don't ask for any real questions. Like, how do you plan to actually do this? Where do you stand on, are you going to have a different foreign policy? Are you going to stop the arming of NATO, the progression of NATO? Are you going to do any of this stuff? She's not going to do any of that. She's going to stand behind the status quo. So you're essentially presenting a similar type of candidate to Joe Biden, even if we had fair elections, which we don't. You're presenting a similar candidate to Joe Biden and you're acting like you're giving people a different choice at the state that we're in right now in 2023, when we're on the brink of nuclear war, you want to put somebody that has zero foreign policy knowledge, and the forefront, it's not even a good candidate. Even if you want to pretend that we have fair elections, it's not a good candidate. Number one. Number two, we don't have fair elections. Or number one, we don't have fair elections. Number two, she's not a good candidate. And I know you know that we don't have fair elections. So everybody that's talking about running their favorite person for president, please understand, we don't have fair elections. Oh, but if they present a really good campaign and a good alternative, I'm sorry, that doesn't matter. We don't have fair elections. You need to understand, we don't have fair elections. Your president is selected, not elected.
I'm wondering if the person who asked the questions really believed them when he was asking. We have to ask if they were legit questions. Kyle, what do you think? What do you think, Kyle?
Fam, do not insult Spike.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Fam, my bad.
Come on, man. Don't insult Spike. Of course I know who that is. Come on.
Of course you would.
Somebody
in the chat said that, and of course you would defend. You would defend Spike. Fam, we got a tweet up from RBN. What's this all about? Let you dive in. Did you read your tweet, by the way, or no? All right, you read your whole tweet, by the way?
I did read my tweet.
Okay.
Not the whole thing, but you guys get the picture, right? You guys get the picture.
Because RBN has been on the forefront of the whole Marianne Williamson thing. They've been. I don't have to say anything. I'm like, they're like, what do you think about Marianne Williamson? I'm like, what RBN said. Go ahead. Like, really? Like, you know?
Yeah. So this is a video that RBN posted with Jordan Cheriton asking, right, Marianne, because these are the Access journalist guys, right? Marianne will go on these shows to be asked these questions. Somehow Marianne did go on RBN, and we'll watch that video as well. But Jordan Cheriton said, unlike Bernie, will you critique Joe Biden? Marianne Williamson refuses to critique Joe Biden, then repeatedly compliments him. Marianne defends Joe Biden against Jordan's critique. Jordan tries to save Williamson multiple times. I mean, this is Jordan Cheriton we're talking about. We're not even talking about like us or RBN. We're talking about Jordan Cheriton. And she makes him look like a radical. Let's listen to a little bit of this, not all of it. Let's listen to some of it.
My opinion, during Bernie's 2 runs, I think he showed up to a knife fight holding a spoon. God bless him, but he would only go up to a certain line. There were many opportunities that he had to offer specifics on corruption regarding Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Honestly, I think he let Joe Biden get away with political murder in terms of his civil rights record, his record in terms of African Americans, mass incarceration. I understand, his attitude was run a positive campaign, no personal attacks, but you have to contrast. You have to sometimes play hardball. And I think whether somebody runs in the primary or as a third party, I mean, for example, Zephyr Teachout, who was a surrogate of Bernie Sanders in 2020, wrote a piece for The Guardian. It was fact-based. It pointed out that Joe Biden had some corruption issues, and Bernie's campaign, it was coming from Bernie, totally walked it back. If you run against Biden, are you willing to go there? I mean, not personal pot shots, but on his record, because I think the Democratic electorate was a lot of that got hid from them due to media and other resources.
Bernie is a U.S. senator. He is an institutionalist, and I think he had some assumptions, had some trust that if Biden won, we know he wanted to be labor secretary, then was not given that position and so forth. Bernie has done so much for this country and certainly has done so much for the progressive movement. I don't want to be taking out a baseball bat against Bernie here either. We all can look and we can learn.
So we're not going to learn from our mistakes because you're so worried about your stability politics. You're so worried about being mean to your friends that we're not going to critically analyze what went wrong and then correct our mistakes, because that's what you guys are doing when you guys do this. You guys think I'm being mean to Bernie? No, I'm calling out the mistakes. With Jordan, props to this question, because it's a good question, because he brings up the fact that Bernie threw his own staff under the bus. Zephyr Teachout, who called out Biden criticism, threw him under the bus. So that goes back to my original point. If we have people that want to throw people under the bus for calling out Democratic Party corruption, why would we invest in that campaign? Why would we invest in a movement that does that? So that's actually a good point for Jordan there. But why would we do that? And why aren't you having the ability to critically analyze what happened there? You essentially dodged Jordan's question. Like, imagine that. But let's continue.
It's such a, just think about that. A politician can't comment, and you want to run for president, but you can't speak critically, logically, without being offensive. You mean you can't speak about any of your friends that do anything bad, that does anything wrong? Why would we want you as a leader for? Don't you know a lot of the people that in the establishment didn't you meet them when you ran? Didn't you form relationships? So why are we to think she's not going to apply this sort of logic to everybody if we try to get her elected? She is so not for this moment. Nick, I cannot stress that enough. Like, she is so not for this moment. She's not even right for 2020 or 16. I think she's more 2008. She is that far behind as far as I'm concerned. So
obviously I can tell you this much. I have said this to many people. If I do this, I'm not doing this just to make a point. I've already made a point. And I can also tell you as a writer, if you want to make a point much easier with a lot less stuff thrown at you, you don't run
easier.
for
You see how
so
even the men, it's easier. We don't want to do movement building. That's hard. That's the hard work. It's easier for me to get my publicity, for me to benefit what I want to accomplish instead of building a movement. But continue the video. I want to hear the rest.
All right, let's just hear a couple more. Let's just hear a little her finish up, and then we'll go back. I want to listen to what she says at the very end.
What's the point?
if I run for president, I can tell you that much. If I run for president, I'm really running for president, and that should be the answer to your question.
Well, you said make a point. Are you willing?
What does that mean? You see no evidence. Is that I'm not.
So she doesn't answer the question, right? She doesn't answer the question really. She literally goes in circles. This is what they do. And again, CJ made the great point, basically saying like, look, if you're not going to criticize your friends, then what's the point of electing you? And this is, we shouldn't even be talking about this stuff right now. This is like 2023, guys.
The whole thing is that I don't think she was ever for this moment. That's the only thing I disagree with, is that I don't think even 2008 she could have stood up and done anything. I just think she's been awful on foreign policy across the board too as well. And there were a few things I did like about Marianne back in the days, but I've forgotten them all because she's just been so awful on so many things. She's been bad on censorship. She's been bad awful on foreign policy. She's been non-existent. Mm-hmm. She was awful on COVID. There were so many things she was terrible on, and it's just, I don't even know why we're entertaining this freaking idea that Marianne Williamson has anything. The guy who's the kind of the outsider dude from the Republican Party, Vivek Ramaswamy, he can't stop talking about China. I know we have these fringe candidates that have just come out early and gotten some attention simply just because they've announced. She has no legit chance of winning. I don't know. Her coalition is smaller than it was before. There is less people likely to stand behind her. The Democrats as a whole, when it comes to their grassroots candidates, are terrible. But, she's moving backwards. Fam, this next video I think is the good one, the one I wanted to play. This is where it gets a little bit crazy, right?
Yeah, this is the next one I think I have.
This is it.
So there's no argument to be made that we've gone forward on the healthcare issue. We have gone backwards because now you got progressives, DSA, sheep herding people to the Democratic Party that would never give you Medicare for all.
Well, I think we have gone forward in terms of a mainstream conversation. Listen, I'm not here as Bernie Sanders' PR agent, and you have your views and I have mine.
Yes, you are. You are here as a Bernie Sanders. And if I would have had a chance to respond, I would have, because my question wasn't even about Bernie. Go back to my question that I asked about 3.5 minutes ago. Why I said, why should we donate to your campaign after the failure of Bernie Sanders? So then after that, instead of answering the question, you then you start going this long spiel talking about what Bernie did great. Why we shouldn't be talking bad about Bernie. You didn't I didn't ask you to do PR for Bernie. You did it voluntarily because Bernie is a cult. Bernie is a cult the same way that Trump is a cult. It literally does not matter what Bernie does. It does. I literally gave her a cognizant, articulate breakdown on why I consider Bernie Sanders to be a sellout, and then she doesn't even debunk it. She doesn't even try to debunk. Oh, we got different opinions on this because it's a cult. The same way if you were to factually debunk a religion, oh, we got our own opinions. Bernie and his movement is a cult.
And I think that's really what this is all about. None of us have a monopoly on truth. I think all of us have pieces of it. Truth is a
true. See, you might as well just say alternative facts. No one has a monopoly on truth. No, there is facts, there's reality, and then there's your feelings, Marianne. Your feelings, the feelings of the Vanguard, the feelings of TYT, the feelings of these people is they want Bernie to be good. They want Bernie to be a fighter of the establishment. They want there to be a progressive route to the presidency in 2024. It's all about feelings. Facts is that Bernie Sanders voted for an increased military budget. He voted to send weapons to Ukraine and increase the military budget. He did not show to any outside events for Medicare for All. The fact is Bernie Sanders sold you out. There's not an interpretation of this. Is there an interpretation of Bernie's votes on Ukraine? There's no interpretation of this stuff. Man, I really wish I had an hour of Marianne one-on-one. Can you imagine me and Marianne in a 1 hour conversation?
The PR agent, and you have your views and I have mine. And I think that's really what this is all about. None of us have a monopoly on truth. I think all of us have pieces of it. Truth is a kaleidoscope to me. And,
I just want to.
I want to get you in on this. I just want to ask a follow up to that because I want to make sure I asked the original question because I didn't want you to I wasn't trying to put you on the back heel defending Bernie. So now I'll circle back to the question again, wasting time. She knows she has 20 minutes. Now I got to circle back to the question because she didn't answer. You're gonna notice there's gonna be a theme in this. The question is like, why after that investment, seeing how disappointing these politicians, some of those people you still apologize for. Why should we make that?
Wait. Before you say some of those you still apologize for, who am I apologizing for?
You just apologized for Bernie. And don't even let me find the tweets of you apologizing for Biden. Why, as a left movement, is going to draft a candidate and a candidate that claims she's going to do a dirty break when she praises Biden all the time? She still thinks that.
Yeah. So, again, this woman doesn't answer the goddamn questions.
Never.
She just goes in circles. She does. And this is what Nick said. He said, pathetic how you allow her to bullshit your audience because of civility politics and the pursuit of access journalism. She has zero chance and she's only here to waste working class resources. This is what really gets to me. And this is what I really got some people mad at me, I think, a couple years ago. Was it last year or the year? I think it was probably the year before, 2 years ago or something. When they were doing some sort of like panel with Crystal Ball, Katie Hopper, Marianne Williamson, and some other lady, and they were raising money for progressive candidates.
That was just a couple months ago.
No, that was like 2 years ago. No.
They did it twice. They did it again,
election.
Right?
Oh, well, okay. I'm sure they did. I wasn't paying attention recently because I'm like.
They did it again. They did it again like with Brianna Joy Gray. It was like 3 months ago.
Yeah. So raising money from working people when none of these people, all of these people are wealthy, the ones that were doing it. So you're taking money from poor people to put it in to candidates that are going to lose because they're spouting the same bullshit from 2015 without telling you how they're going to accomplish it in a rigged election system. To me, it's disgusting. It is awful. It is you're stealing money from poor people and giving them false hope. And of course they're accountable to their own bullshit for believing in you, but still, like, it's just doing this. I think, because the whole thing is, but AOC and all these people, they raise money from working people. That's great. It's like, now you're stealing from them without doing anything for them. Yeah. So.
And a lot of people go, we lost you, fam. I don't know what happened, fam. We lost her. Her computer went out. But the thing that really also bothers me too, as well, is the fact that people always say, "Oh, really? If we did have fair elections, they get a lot more votes. Yeah, they wouldn't win, but they get a lot more votes. But that means anybody. Anybody could ring, because the people would just vote outside the establishment alone. And that's something they never want you to see, is that how many people just despise the establishment alone that would vote for a rock or this coffee cup or Marianne Williamson, for that matter. No, I'm sorry, that was rude. She's much better than a rock and a coffee cup, but she's a waste of time candidate. She's awful on. One of my favorite videos is seeing Roger Waters just tear apart. Let's take a look really quickly at Bernie, because we're talking about Bernie in this whole thing, because this was Bernie this weekend or a couple days ago about what's going on in Russia. And just listen to the conversation. I'm really not involved in this that much, but
involved in. But I support what.
Should America send F-16s?
It's not an issue that I've been heavily involved in, but I support what the president is doing. I think what Putin did was outrageous, not only for the people of the Ukraine and all the destruction, not only for the thousands and tens of thousands of Russian soldiers who have been dying. We need a world now, if we're going to combat climate change, if we're going to combat future pandemics, we need a world to come together. And Putin has radically disrupted that, and that is a real tragedy. But I think at the end of the day, the United States, NATO cannot sit back and allow Putin's aggression to go unresponded to.
Should.
You know, I'm past the point where this really affects me, to the point where it used to affect me a while ago. But like, I'm just like, this guy that was like drinking vodka with Russians on his honeymoon is here. I mean, it's just regurgitating the same State Department NATO talking points that Anthony Blinken. It could have been Anthony Blinken. It could have been Samantha Powers. It could have been any of these people saying that. The words Bernie is saying. He has no idea what's going on. That's the reality. I don't even think that he knows what's going on.
I think he knows. I think he's just such bought off and sold down the river and shit like that he actually believes this shit. He's been inside his bubble for so long. I mean,
that's what I mean.
That
like,
was such crap. I'm really not involved with this. What do you mean you're not involved with this? You vote for this. You support this. You're in the Senate.
You're a senator.
So you could be involved if you want to be involved. That's a crap. And then at the end, it goes, but I just think we can't sit back. That's another way of saying you don't mind the mass funding of weapons that are going to be used to kill civilians in the Donbass. They're going to be used to make sure that hundreds of thousands of people.
He doesn't even mention. I mean, he's not even going to mention the Donbass. He didn't even mention like any of this stuff that was going on. Like that's the reality, right? It doesn't matter. And the whole thing too, fighting a climate change and the pandemic. It's like the same. Yes. Literally just WEF talking points. I'm not saying that there is no climate change or that, we shouldn't care about our environment, because I do think like, areas like the Amazon are important, but the agenda that these, of course, environmental, NGOs are exploiting is a whole other thing. It's going to do the opposite to the environment that we want. It's literally an attempt to control everything.
Sam, if we cared about the environment, if we cared about the ozone, if we cared about our skies, the first thing we would do is cut the funding for the military, because that's the biggest polluter out there of what's going on. If we were serious about this shit, we would do it right. There's not even a serious conversation anymore. It's ridiculous at this point. It's just virtue signaling. And that's all Bernie did, was virtue signal. And by the way, you put my boys up here from Due Dissidence. What up, guys? See, no dirty break. Can Vanguard Pod and Brianna Joy Gray clear this up for the audience like they should have done from day one? And with my favorite guy, Jonathan Capehart. Oh, my God, fam, that guy is such an asshole.
You're running against a sitting president, which is a daunting task.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are thinking, what's she going to do if she's not successful? Will you support the Democratic nominee? Will you support the party if you are not the nominee?
I'm going to do everything possible as a patriotic American to make sure that the neo-fascist authoritarian threat that is very real in our country and is very entrenched at this point within the Republican Party does not win the White House in 2024. That's why I'm running.
You're running against a sitting president.
So she's running to help Joe Biden or the Democratic Party clinch the presidency. She's not running for you. So anybody that is actually pushing Marianne Williamson as a candidate is pushing Joe Biden and the status quo. So you want more of the same that we've been getting. And further, I mean, again, guys, we don't have fair elections. Like, I get so sick of saying this, but like, we don't have fair elections. And even if we did, you're pushing
She sucks as a
candidate,
candidate,
right?
Even if she did, she sucks as a candidate. She's got no freaking appeal to the populist. She's got a little small contingent of some progressives out there. And at the end of the day, they're going to mitigate damage and they're going to make sure that the Republicans don't win the White House. It's not about you fucking changing the system. We're taking on the system, which is what we wanted, is what you said you were running for. You're there for the OMG factor to make sure that the White House isn't controlled by the authoritarian Republicans. It's controlled by the authoritarian Democrats instead. Fam, American left populism. I support the president's proxy war in Ukraine. American right populism. The president who spent 4 years facilitating deep state agenda, will totally obliterate the deep state. That's by Caitlin Johnson, fam. There she is, number one, with Bernie Sanders, who we just played the video. And there is Donald Trump, who I know you got to laugh at this one, fam. He's going to obliterate the deep state, fam. He's going to obliterate the deep state.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He just spent all these years feeding it, but this time around, fam, he's going to obliterate it. Misty put something else up. What's this?
Right. So I said a tweet, I said, anyone who doesn't understand U.S. American politics, and I'm talking to some Russians, to some people who think, oh, maybe the Republican Party is less imperialistic. No. Needs to understand this. We don't have fair elections, guys. We don't have fair elections. Our president's changed, but our foreign policy stays the same. And our country doesn't have two parties. It's an empire. It's an oligarchy ruled by the national security state apparatus and the military-industrial complex, which is why presidents don't actually change much, and which is why you have Donald Trump on one end, after 4 years of saying he's going to eliminate the deep state, saying he's going to do it again, and then you have liberals all about supporting Ukraine and going at Putin. So Misty says electoral politics is a waste of time, money, and energy. It doesn't matter who the president is. The presentation and the demographic they pander to may vary slightly, but the overall agenda remains the same. She also had another tweet below that. If you go to it, anyone telling you different is lying and funneling you into a completely corrupted system. You absolutely cannot vote your way out of this, period. Either rise up and fight back or prepare yourself and brace for the inevitable collapse of empire. And that's exactly where I'm at right now, guys. There's really, you can do, and I disagree with you, Pasta. I mean, you do stuff and I understand what you're trying to do. I totally get it. But for me, it's like, we don't have fair elections. These people on the right aren't interested either in reforming it. Most people on the left don't even believe that our elections are tainted. They still think you can vote your way out of this, or worse off than the people on the right. And so then what we have is just these distractions. Every 4 years, people put all their energy into a presidential election that doesn't change the foreign policy. It doesn't change the outcome of your daily lives. It doesn't change anything. And I'm not saying this to be defeatist. I'm saying it because it's the truth. And you can't vote your way out of this. As Misty said, the time for that has gone, because we don't have a system that's actually going to allow somebody good to rise to power. Okay? It's just not going to happen. You have too many agencies, too many people involved that will not allow that to happen. The collapse has to happen in some ways, or the people have to really actually go outside of the system. It's the only way. And so everybody focused on who's going to be president and this and that is really missing the point.